Have you ever worked with someone who seems to easily get upset? Have you ever wondered why a person can tell you what they should do when upset, but they don't actually do that? Or seen someone become so upset that even reasoning, limit setting, or talking it out doesn't seem to help, and even sometimes escalates the situation? I am Dr. Stefanie F. Smith from Hanna, where I serve as the Chief Clinical Officer. As a clinical psychologist and former school teacher, these are scenarios I've seen with both youth and adults. Over the next 15 minutes or so, we will be learning about one way that complex trauma impacts the brain. This info will help you put dysregulated behaviors, such as those just mentioned, in context so you can respond more effectively. And I'll also give you some suggestions on how to respond in the moment. Then we will introduce some activities that can help reduce these behaviors by healing one of the neurological impacts of complex trauma. The hope is that the science and the examples will allow you to create similarly healing activities that work for your personality and your professional setting. First, let's all get on the same page about what I mean when I'm talking about complex trauma. Complex trauma is an umbrella term for interpersonal trauma that is ongoing and usually entails experiencing multiple times of traumatic events either simultaneously or sequentially. Traditionally, these were traumas that fall in the child maltreatment category, such as abuse and neglect. We're also beginning to understand that the racial trauma and historical trauma can be conceptualized as a specific form of complex trauma. The term complex trauma is also used to describe the impact of these types of trauma. While complex trauma has demonstrated impacts on several areas of the brain, today I'm focusing on the limbic system because it is key in answering the three questions we started with, because this system is used for understanding dysregulated emotions and behaviors. There are some differences of opinion as to what areas of the brain are included in the limbic system, but generally it's agreed upon that there are four key areas that are represented here by this hippo with a hat. The hippo stands for hippocampus, and the hat stands for hypothalamus, amygdala, and thalamus. Now it's okay if you don't remember these terms, even with the debonair hippo with the hat. I lay them out here for those of you who may be interested in learning more about the various functions of the limbic system on your own, such as its role in learning and memory, since I will only be focusing on emotional regulation. Speaking of memory and learning, the hippocampus is key for these functions, including remembering what might be dangerous. The amygdala triggers our fight, flight, freeze response. The hypothalamus releases hormones, mainly oxytocin, to regulate the amygdala. The thalamus is the grand central station of all sensory inputs other than smell. As such, the thalamus begins the process of feeling emotions, such as fear, sadness, disgust, happiness, pleasure, because emotional feelings come from our senses. The thalamus is also part of the limbic system that combines higher order functions and primitive emotions into one system. So taken together, the limbic system plays a key role in how we perceive and respond to the world around us. It serves as the emotional switchboard of the brain, especially when under stress or fear. For example, imagine you're walking along a trail and see a long black rope like something on the ground. Most likely, your heart would start to pound, you might start tensing, you may even scream, jump, freeze. Because of how quickly the limbic system works, your hippocampus, which compares the image to its stored list of dangers, can register something as being dangerous. It then sends a high priority alert to the amygdala and fast tracks the fight, flight, freeze response before you even consciously know what happened or have time to think it over. Then a heartbeat or so later, the thinking brain gets involved, hopefully. This is the part of the brain that says, yes, long, black, rope-like, but not moving, no scale texture. And why would a black snake be in this part of the country? And now I see the length and some metal at the end. Oh, not a snake, but a hose. Hey, limbic system, no need to be afraid. Or the thinking brain says, yep, scaly, slithering, snake. What is it that ranger told me? Oh yeah, a snake can only spring as far as half of its length. That looks about 5 feet, so just to be safe, I'll stay back at least 3 feet. Maybe even 6. So now you got a bonus. In addition to learning about the limbic system, you now know what to do if you ever see a snake. Complex trauma can result in limbic irritability, which is when the limbic system is easily stirred up. So a person with a history of complex trauma may spend most of their time in their limbic system, or emotional part of their brain, and spend more time in the fear survival center, amygdala, even when there is no obvious threat. And they will have less access to their thinking brain when they're in emotional states. For everyone, the limbic system has a negativity bias. So it detects negative information prior to positive information in order to prioritize ensuring survival. This explains why our default reaction was snake and not hose. For a person with a complex trauma history, their brain is primed to focus on the negative info, almost to the exclusion of the positive information. This results in the tendency to perceive actions by others as threatening and see people as untrustworthy. Furthermore, the fight-flight-freeze system can be constantly on. An analogy I think about is a person with complex trauma often walks through their day at a constant pre-boil level. This means that any type of stressor, including daily hassles and minor stressors, would cause them to boil over. This results in the person that seems to get easily upset. It also means other parts of the brain, such as the hippocampus within the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex, are used less and do not grow and develop as they should. This impacts memory and the ability to learn, and the ability to think through situations and plan responses. Taken together, this means that especially in times of stress or fear, when the amygdala is triggered, a complex trauma survivor will have difficulty problem solving, drawing on past experiences, and learning from their mistakes or remembering potential consequences. This results in the person who can tell you how they should act when calmly reviewing a situation with you, but all that goes out the window when actually upset. Furthermore, the prefrontal cortex is not sending as many messages to the limbic system to inform the amygdala that there is actually no danger and that their response does not need to be one of fear. I am sure you have had experiences of being in almost all limbic system, or at least seen it. In some of my less proud moments, I have watched myself say things I should not say, but somehow couldn't stop myself from saying them. Or I have seen my daughter get so frustrated with the project that she has a meltdown and can't problem solve. I've had those moments as well. I think my daughter and I are not the only ones. I hope we're not the only ones. In a complex trauma survivor, these moments will probably happen with more frequency, longer duration, and after milder stressors or triggers. So let's return to our snake hose. A person with complex trauma will see lots of snakes, even when there are hoses, and will take much longer to, or may never realize, not a snake. So they will be reacting as if there is a snake, even reacting as if there is a black mamba snake. And if it is a snake, they will not have access to the information to keep them safe and avoid danger. They will react versus respond. Under extreme stress or when triggered, a person may experience amygdala hijack. During an amygdala hijack, a person is just reacting with their fear center and cannot seem to even access the other parts of their brain. An amygdala hijack looks like loss of reason, temper tantrum, loss of control of emotions, intense anger, and in its most extreme form, complete shutdown. A clue that you are with someone who's experiencing amygdala hijack and not just limbic system emotional brain dominance is when checking in, trying to talk it out, reasoning, even mentioning possible consequences seems to make the situation worse. Remember that third scenario at the beginning of the video? This is because anything that stimulates other parts of the brain to function, such as the verbal centers when they're trying to understand what you are saying and think of a response, is experienced as overload. For people who have experienced complex trauma, amygdala hijack happens more often for less noticeable stressors or triggers and at older ages than this behavior would be expected. So if your usual tricks to help someone who is upset don't work and may even make things worse, what do? 1. Ignore their chronological age and respond how you would naturally to a younger child. Keep going backwards in time until you find a response that seems to be helping. You might provide a reminder or prompt to help them calm. Or you might actually just breathe and calm them directly. You probably would not expect them to calm themselves. And you've probably noticed that threatening a consequence to a small child if they don't calm down in the middle of their screaming has not yielded the best results. What is more effective is working with the current brain functioning rather than against it. But when a complex trauma survivor goes low, is using the emotional brain, we go low, not high, to the thinking brain. Going low includes taking deep breaths together, singing, rocking, holding, all the sensory activations that help co-regulate. This works because breathing activates a lower region of the brain than the limbic system, and nurturing touch and movement activates oxytocin, the bonding hormone that the hypothalamus uses to help calm the amygdala. Therefore, the best way to approach someone who is becoming dysregulated is to co-regulate first, then rebuild or reactivate your relationship, and once calm, then reason. I call this the 5 C's. Co-regulate first through breath and or the senses. Connect. Be compassionately curious about what is going on and why. Allow choice and consequences. Check in again. And this progression may take several hours or even days. Then there's prevention. The part that gets me really excited is that we can make the limbic system more effective. Like everything, practice improves performance. We can help the limbic system practice by providing activities that use the limbic system in moments that aren't during high emotional stress or triggers. So the entire limbic system becomes more regulated, accessible, and integrated during emotionally charged times. Limbic system practice involves activities that force one to think while experiencing a physical arousal that mimics what happens when afraid, such as through physical activity, competition, speed, some context that creates a little bit of pressure. In a classroom, this could be things like reviewing your lessons while playing hot potato or some sort of hotspot activity, or having quizzes and competition races with your learning material. So in looking at this video, see how you can modify these activities to fit the classroom by substituting questions that have to do with your lesson plan. What's happening here is the excitement and pace of the activity is causing physical arousal and emotion, yet the kids still need to use their thinking brain to come up with the answers. Outside the classroom, any of those games that make you think under pressure, like Taboo, Hullabaloo, Hyperdash, are great for building the limbic system. And just like any new skill, it takes regular practice, probably daily practice. One of my favorites is this game Dutch Bliss. Here, the arousal comes from the need to be faster than your competitors, and the thinking portion is actually quite a few cognitive tasks, including number sequencing in both ascending and descending orders, color coding, and gender sorts, plus the need to attend to several piles of cards. Whew, I'm just tired explaining it. Even video musical games such as Taiko Drumming Game or Dance Revolution can be used as limbic system practice. Because the arousal of the physical movement and speed combined with the thinking needed to attend to the sequences and copy those sequences. Hopefully these videos give you some ideas. Think of activities that a complex trauma survivor would do regularly. Every community, every culture has limbic system activities. Similarly, no matter who you are or in whatever setting you work, you can think of ways of transforming some of the activities you do to make sure they have both a thinking component and physical arousal. In this way, you can help heal the damage complex trauma causes the limbic system. So in closing, have fun thinking of activities that could help improve the limbic system. And remember, at the moment of dysregulation, take your breath and think, how would you respond to the brain development age they are showing and not their chronological age? Then you will know what to do naturally. Co-regulate through breath and the senses and connect. Thank you.